Hello, I'm Dr. Greg Winteregg, CEO of the Private Dentist Alliance. I want to talk to all of you students out there today who are wondering what your future is going to be like as a career in dentistry. As an assistant, as a hygienist, as a dentist, where is this profession going with the rapid increase of the DSO movement? I'm here to tell you that PDA is going to help you, and I want you to become a member today. It is free. Now, why should you become a member? You're going to get weekly video updates from me, and you're going to get regular updates of our newsletters from the Alliance on exactly what is happening and how we are going to help preserve and protect the private practice of dentistry. Now, to me, the most important advantage is you are going to get access to our job board. What is that? Our private practicing members all have access to our PDA job board, which means if they have an opening in their private practice of assistant, hygienist, doctor, front office staff, they're going to be able to post it. And you're going to be able to check up regularly. And as our membership grows, we're going to be covering larger and larger territories across the United States. If you are looking for a job in any position in the office of a private practice, you need to become a student member today. It is free. Go to www.privatedental.org and become a student member today. You're going to love your benefits. Do it now.
What is up, guys? It's your boy Matt Havis back at it with the Dental Student Vibes podcast. Today we have a really cool interview for you. We have the celebrity eye surgeon, Dr. Brian Boxer Wachler. Dr. Brian Boxer Wachler is a super renowned, prestigious ophthalmologist. He's famous for his research into the condition known as keratoconus. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you could shoot him DMs. You could check out all of his literature work, all of his stuff that he's done, his research for keratoconus, and all of the breakthroughs and stuff he's done on that, which is super cool. But today he sits down with us. He talks about how he became famous on TikTok during the quarantine and how he maximized his time during the quarantine in his lockdown, and how he used lemons to make lemonade, which is what we love at the Dental Student Vibes podcast. So check that out. And he's got his book, and it talks about perceptual intelligence. I won't say too much. I'll let you guys tune in, and you guys hear more about it then. Super cool. I'm really looking forward to hearing about it. I want to read the book, and hopefully we can have him on again and discuss it. So as always, follow us on Instagram at dental.student.vibes. Make sure you give us a like, comment, review. Let us know what we can do to make this the best podcast we can for you. As always, please be safe and vibe on.
Welcome back to another episode of the Dental Student Vibes podcast. I'm Seth Kalish with Matt Havis, Cole Herzik, and today we have our very special, famous guest, Dr. Brian Boxer Wachler. Dr. Brian, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here with you guys.
Dr. Brian is an awesome guest. We're very excited to have him on today. So Dr. Brian is an MD, and he is known as America's TV eye doctor and eye surgeon. Has been featured on NBC's Today Show, Good Morning America, Dr. Drew, The Doctors, CBS News, and many more. He's a social media influencer with over 1.3 million followers on TikTok. That's million with an M. And he's a published author of Perceptual Intelligence and authored over 50 peer-reviewed medical journal articles, and has been an FDA investigator for 15 clinical trials. Wow, that's a pretty hefty bio there, Dr. Brian.
Oh, I made it all up. It's easy. You buy diplomas online now. It's easy, right? It's simple.
Love it. So, Dr. Brian, we here at the Dental Student Vibes podcast, we love to have guests like you on, people who are very accomplished, and you've done so much, not only within your profession, but then you've branched out and you've done all these different, FDA investigator for 15 clinical trials. That's crazy. That I love that. That's amazing. So can you kind of bring us all the way back when you were going through school and what kind of made you decide to go in that direction and how you became an MD and eye surgeon?
I always knew I wanted to be a doctor from a really young age. So I have an uncle who was a very innovative and accomplished urologist in Cincinnati, Jeff Waxman. He was a pediatric urologist. So I always had somebody in my family who I could look to a little bit as a role model. And my parents were very, came from very modest backgrounds. It's not a physician family that I grew up in. My dad was from Brooklyn, New York. My mom was from Cincinnati, Ohio, and they were hairstylists. And when they came out to California, but they were very supportive of me. And I think, I always liked to work with my hands when I was younger. So I used to play piano until, of course, I quit, like almost every teenager does. And then I used to make models, build those little like car models and airplanes. And I love doing puzzles. So I always like working with my hands, and I always liked helping people. And so that was, from a teenager, my goal and dream to be a doctor, and specifically a surgeon.
Definitely. And I know exactly what you're saying. Working with your hands, there's something that's so satisfying. It's almost artistic, and that's why we all went into dentistry. So I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes total sense, because obviously as dentists, dental students, you're working with the hands all the time.
Dr. Brian, do you ever feel like your hands have to constantly be moving because you use them all day? Like when you're out of the office or whatever, do you feel like your hands are constantly moving? Like I always have something in my hands. I always do, like whether it's one of those fidget spinners or something, just to keep my hands going. I don't know if it's because it's like early in my career and I always have to keep my hands going. They're always doing something. And I don't know, a lot of doctors I've talked, like preceptors, like, yeah, we do that too. Like they'll have a pencil and they'll like twirl a pencil around or something. And it makes me feel like, I guess, normal within the field. Does that happen, for you as being a surgeon?
Well, I'm usually like with the pen in my mouth because I have an oral fixation problem. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't have a, fidgety thing outside the office. It's like when when I need to use my hands, in my profession, I do, but otherwise don't really think about it. And like in my downtime, I like to, hang out with my kids. I have twin daughters who are almost 15. So we like to do fun stuff, which, ping pong, would be one, I guess, working with the hands. And I like to row. I'm a rower. I used to be a competitive rower back in the college days. So I guess that's also working with my hands. But I think those are activities I enjoy, not that it's another way to kind of use my hands.
Awesome. Love it.
So, Dr. Brian, people say, they're going to look at your resume. They're going to say he's an author, he's a surgeon, he's a full-time dad, he's rowing, he's playing ping pong with the girls. So, that's a very impressive resume. That's a lot to handle, even for one man, let alone maybe 10. So how do you do it all?
Well, first of all, in terms of the ping pong, I should say one of my daughters kicks my butt now. So, so that's not something I would probably put on my resume. But I just, I like to do things. I'm very goal oriented. I think from a young age. So I like to accomplish things. It makes me feel good. I feel stimulated intellectually by doing something even outside of my comfort zone. So like, for example, you mentioned that I'm an author. So when I was in college, which was at UCLA, I was a psychobiology major. And so I always was fascinated by how our brains work. And so a few years ago, I had an opportunity after I was at the Sochi Olympics in Russia. I was there for my patient, Stephen Holcomb, who is a US bobsledder, who I had treated a condition he has called keratoconus, because I developed a number of procedures for that eye condition to prevent people from needing cornea transplants. So after I restored his vision, treated his keratoconus, he won a gold medal at the Vancouver Olympics, and then he was competing in Sochi. So I was there, and I observed all this amazing stuff, basically about the disconnect between perception and reality that Putin was portraying in the media about the Olympics. And Olympics were amazing, by the way. and Stephen won 2 silver medals. But what Putin was doing was fascinating because the world was perceiving something that was very different than was happening behind the scenes, literally on the ground. And that was the impetus for me to write this psychological pop psychology book called Perceptual Intelligence that was sort of the springboard for that. So again, it was out of my comfort zone. I authored medical books before, but a mainstream book that you would see like on Amazon or any of those other sort of bestseller lists was, wasn't afraid, and I was excited to do it. And so I'm actually now working even on my second book right now as a follow-up to that. So it's just, I like to do things and things that stimulate me, and I think things that will be of interest to other people.
That's awesome. That's incredible. So how was that journey going from, you said you authored other medical books and then you went to, I guess, like you said, a more mainstream audience. What was the journey like with the publishing? And did you go on like a book tour? How was all that?
Yeah, very different. So in doing my medical books, which are mostly about keratoconus, actually 3 books published on keratoconus, that was pretty much like, talk to the publisher. They're like, yes, you're one of the experts in the world on keratoconus. Well, yeah, do whatever you want to do. Mainstream publishing book, I'm a first timer. They don't, care that I've written medical books before because it's a very different audience than the mainstream book. So I had to eventually find an agent, a book agent, and then we would do a proposal, which is almost like a business plan, but for the book. So in nonfiction, you don't write the whole book. You do like a sample chapter and an outline, and it's like, what's the market? So it's literally like a business plan, but for the book. And then finally, I was able to get an amazing agent, and he was able to shop the book around and, sell it. And then I eventually went on the book tour when it came out. I traveled around the U.S. And if anybody's interested, you could see some of those interviews I did in TV in different parts of the country. My website for the book is perceptualintelligence.com. And you'll be able to see like some of the fun things about the book that I was able to talk about. And it was fun. I mean, going on this book tour and stopping at Barnes and Nobles and doing book signings. It was really fun to do something like that.
That's great.
Very nice. And I'm sorry, but for anyone tuning in, watching the video, we have the book cover right here. Nice looking book cover and a nice jacket photo to go along with it.
Yeah. And actually, I guess I should mention like what perceptual intelligence is for just a moment. So I sort of developed the concept that there's this disconnect between perception and reality a lot of times. So having perceptual intelligence, like emotional intelligence, is a high level would be where you're able to separate fact from fantasy and understanding what are our biases that we bring into our own experiences, whether it's our religion, our childhood upbringing, social, all sorts of elements that could bias us one way or the other, that could derail our ability to perceive what's truthful or what's not. And that's the concept behind the book. And there's lots of really fun examples. And one of the fun examples I like to describe is, there's a grilled cheese sandwich that got auctioned off on eBay for $28,000. And I bet you're wondering why, right? Can I hear a why?
Yeah, why is that, Dr. Brian?
Okay. So this woman in Florida was making her grilled cheese sandwich. She's flipping it over and she looks down and she's like, oh my gosh, like there's Virgin Mary in the skillet burns of my grilled cheese sandwich. And she really thought this is a incarnation of Virgin Mary. And so people who have very strong religious beliefs believed that this is a representation of Virgin Mary, and literally on eBay it got sold for $28,000. And now, is there really Virgin Mary in those skillet burns? No. But again, people who have this strong religious background and belief, they're sort of biased to look for images, religious imagery in inanimate objects. There's actually a medical name for that condition called pareidolia. And we've all, have you ever looked up in the clouds and you've seen like a face of some kind?
Oh yeah,
for sure.
So we're trained from being infants to be able to want to see human faces, because that's the first thing we see, our parents typically. And so when you've got people who have these strong religious biases, they'll look naturally even to see religious figures. And there was one example of somebody who was eating Cheetos and looked at one of the Cheetos and saw an image of Jesus in the Cheetos, or Jesus, if you will.
There you go.
Oh man. Yeah, I see teeth all over.
Makes sense.
Look up in the sky.
That's a molar.
Yeah.
What an amazing canine.
There you go. You're basically the dentist already.
Yeah.
You know all the teeth.
I shot my load. I'm done. That's all I know is those two.
Right. So, Dr. Brian, you were talking about during this whole process of making the book, one of our goals with the Dental Student Advised podcast is to teach others about marketing, business, finance. So with regards to marketing, how did you kind of begin with because I'm sure you might use an agent or you use some sort of marketer for your practice. Is that a correct assumption there?
A lot of it I kind of conceive on my own, in fact.
Right.
Believe it or not. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean,
I've had marketing people help me,
Yeah.
but a lot of the concepts I've just sort of developed. I study one person who's great, who I followed for many years. His name is Dan Kennedy. And if you've heard of him, so his group, there's a lot of information, a lot of great things to understand that, you may not necessarily read in any other marketing books, but he's published so many books about marketing. He's a great person for people to look at. But that's been one of the people I've been following for many years.
Mm-hmm. So what has your experience been like using an agent, and how is that like maybe using sort of publicist or PR? How has that helped you with your career?
So because I've done a number of innovative procedures, like for example, with keratoconus, I was trained in my fellowship to do cornea transplants. I should explain, keratoconus is where the cornea is weak and bulges out. It's like having a hernia, but instead of in your groin, it's like on the eye. So it's the collagen's weak, it bulges, much like if you were driving your car and the windshield starts become distorted by bulging. That's kind of what people can see from their eyes as the cornea bulges. So I used to do cornea transplants in my fellowship, cornea refractive vision correction surgery fellowship. I was trained to do cornea transplants, and I started doing them also when I came out of my fellowship. And then I developed these other procedures that were minimally or even non-invasive. And that was at the time still it's still kind of revolutionary, but especially 20 years ago, it was really revolutionary. So there was a reason for the media to be interested to have me on, fortunately, to talk about the innovations. And that's the key thing about when people think about a publicist, is there has to be something novel that you're going to want to share. Otherwise, the media, they're not going to be interested, because news is by definition something that's new or newsworthy. So people should think about that. But a publicist can be very beneficial when somebody wants to share something that is new and novel.
That's awesome.
Right.
I love that answer.
So speaking of new and novel, 2020 ushered in some interesting things. One of the most interesting things being TikTok. Speaking of that, how did you become one of these top doctors that, as we said before, has so much already on his plate to then even add another thing on his plate? How did you add that all into the mix?
Well, there was this little thing that I don't know if you guys noticed last year that happened called the pandemic.
Never
heard
of it.
Yeah, I mean, some people noticed it, but so a lot of things slowed down, including my practice. We have a lot of people who fly in from out of town for their procedures, particularly keratoconus, but I also do a wider eyes procedure when people have discolorations from the sun on the whites of their eyes and other things like that. Well, obviously, when they shut down, the country, a lot of people weren't flying in anymore. So I had a lot of extra time on my hands. And one of my daughters, actually sort of in concert, they were both like, you know what, Dad, there's some really good doctors on TikTok and you should check it out. And I think, we can help you get started. And my staff earlier last year had set up my TikTok account. They actually, their first video was about a keratoconus procedure I do called Holcomb C3R cross-linking. It's a non-invasive cross-linking that I developed. And, it did pretty well. I think it got like 10,000 views or something like that. And then the account just sort of lay dormant. And then when my daughters talked to me about this, I was like, yeah, that sounds again, like fun, something new, like stimulating for me. Again, I like to do new things. And so they started helping me, and I had no idea what I was doing in the beginning, under their guidance. I got, some little bit of traction, and it was fun. And I realized, there's this opportunity for me to help other people. And I sort of switched my mindset from being like, I'm going to talk only about eyes because I'm an eye doctor, eye surgeon. My mindset was, I think people would want to hear from me based on some other feedback about other health topics. And so as soon as I switched that gear and I started, being open to other suggestions, that I was getting tagged by in other videos in TikTok. Because for those of you that aren't familiar with TikTok, you can, in the comments of any video, you can tag anybody else who's on TikTok, by putting the @ sign. So I was starting to get these people tagging me like at Brian Boxer Wachler, MD, about different videos. And I would do research and I would see if the video content was true or not true. So it sort of tied back into my perceptual intelligence, right? How to separate fact from reality, or fiction from reality. And so, that's how it kind of grew. And I was finding my groove, if you will, my own style, to the degree now that I will be responding to people's comments or making videos, because anybody can make a viral video on social media, right? Doesn't matter who you are, as long as whatever the algorithm is behind the scenes recognizes that people are responding, it'll get promoted. So TikTok, they promote to the For You page. That's where ideally people want to try to get videos shown, because it's being put out to, people who aren't their followers. That's what a lot of people strive for on TikTok. So then I came up with this concept of, calling something in the Gen Z term of not true, which is called CAP. So CAP in
oh my gosh.
So CAP in Gen Z world means like fake or not true. So then I started with, and I'm going to show you the evolution of my CAP, because there is a little bit of an evolution since I've been doing this for a little bit. Can I go grab it for a sec?
Go ahead.
Okay, all right, I'll be right back. Because this evolution is kind of fun. I've actually never shown, you're the first to see the evolution of my CAP little shtick.
Awesome.
So this will be sort of fun.
So no one can comment #NoCap on this video, right?
Exactly. So I get to use my hands some more, right? Getting the headset organized. All right. So this was my so again, the emoji for CAP is the blue hat, right? That little blue hat you see. So then I started putting the blue hat on my head, and I had made this little thing that said CAP on it like this. So I would, comment or duet a video, which is a side-by-side video of somebody doing whatever it was. If it was not true, I would, at the end of the video, go like that. And this is backwards, because in TikTok video, like everything's reversed. So I actually made it backwards. And so that's how that kind of started. And then I eventually had like proper hats made. So I've got now these like proper caps.
That's great.
And so that's kind of what I'm known as. Like, people sort of tag me constantly, and I try to get to as many videos to comment or at least mention in a response. But that's sort of how it developed. And it's been really fun. And I've collaborated with some great doctors as well, and become friends with them over TikTok as well. So, I mean, TikTok is not just for like kids dancing anymore. It's really evolved to almost being like a little bit of a search engine for information, but you got to find who's credible to follow, because believe me, there's lots of CAP out there.
Yeah.
Lots. Yeah. It's like an epidemic of CAP.
Right. We see it a lot too in dentistry. We'll see like informational videos, and It's just, a lot of it is just so incorrect. And, you know, coming from somebody who studies it, we want to put out quality content that everyone can, you know, learn from, and it's accurate and reliable. And you see a lot of stuff on there. So I think you hit a huge selling thing where you can do this, because there's so many different medical things that go on TikTok, Instagram, everything, Facebook, and everything you see. If you know the field, you're like, I guess kind of like, if you break it down so simply, you kind of lose, you know, accuracy in a sense, just because we understand to this nth degree. But for them, you have to break it down in layman's terms. But when you get to that certain point, there might be a disconnect. So I think by you explaining it the way you do, you know, it's comedic and everything, and it's relatable. So it actually helps the whole new generation learning, you know, healthcare terminology and everything. It's huge.
Yeah, I feel like I'm really doing a service, because I get feedback a lot like, oh my gosh, you saved me from like hours or months of doing this or buying this product, which ended up, you know, being a BS product for a condition. I mean, it's just like never ending. I mean, in dentistry, there was one video that was viral that actually ended up being true. And I talked to people and researched it, which is like the long face syndrome for people, you know, kids that are like mouth breathers, right? That they, you know, it's like their face kind of, you get this, you know, Ichabod Crane-ish look, right? That pulls out. And that was true. So that was a viral video. That was true. But then there's other ones where people are like, you know, doing Muse. Have you heard of Muse exercises? Like this Dr. Muse, where it's like doing these like jaw exercises to get you know, lots of people want to get like a trim jawline.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And like, that's, you know, there's no science behind that. So
you cause more.
You got TMD, the temporomandibular disorder in the joint there, TMJ.
Yeah, and like there's one guy who's like biting down on this big plastic thing, and he's got these like big chiseled jaws, and he does a fun filter where he gets big jaws, but still, I mean, he's like, even without it, it's like people are like, oh, I'm going to go buy and do these exercises, you know, to build up the masseter muscles. So, you know, that's just one example in dentistry that there's stuff that's true that went viral and stuff not true that went viral.
I totally agree with you. One of them I saw recently, somebody's using a nail file to make their teeth. Oh, yeah, you saw that one?
Yeah. I duetted that one a while ago.
Yeah.
I actually I did a funny thing with that one. I remember of like filing the teeth like at home. And then I'm like, well, if you're going to do that, you might as well like take a look at, and then I pan down to a hose on the ground, a garden hose. And I said, home colonoscopies.
Excellent. Oh my God. Oh, that's man. A good one. That's a good one.
Goodness.
All right. So Dr. Brian, we want to kind of transition here and talk more about what it's like for you practicing every day and working in a clinical setting. Okay. So can you kind of break it down to us what a day in the life of Dr. Brian is like?
So I get up and I'll work out 6 days a week in the morning. Again, going back to, I was an athlete in college, and I feel better. I feel good when I work out, and I always have one day off a week. So I'll get up and go for one kind of workout or another. I've sort of got my routine down. And then I will shower, which is good. Everybody appreciates that.
Good stuff.
And of course, actually, you guys will appreciate this. I've recently, in the last year, gotten in the routine of flossing in the morning as well as at nighttime.
All right.
Respect.
Great. Respect. That is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for the gums. So I'm trying to be an overachiever in that department. And my dentist is like, your gums look really good now since you've been doing it twice a day.
Awesome.
So, yeah. And so then in the office, you know, I'll like when I'm driving in the car, I like to listen to Freakonomics podcast, and I like the Stephen Dubner series there, and No Stupid Questions. And now, you know, your guys' podcast, now that I've been, you know, tuned into that, is a great one too. So when I in the morning, I like to listen. I like to learn something in the car, and then. You know, at the office, then I'm sort of like, I click into, you know, Dr. Brian mode where I'm like seeing patients or I'm doing surgery. And when I have any downtime, I'm working on something here in the office. And so that's kind of what my day looks like. And then on the way home, same thing, listen to a podcast, and then, you know, get home and, you know, see the family and have fun with the family at that point.
That's great. So do you have any let's say particular habits that you can attribute to all of your success? Like, are there any little specific things? So it's funny. I mean, you said you take a shower, but there's the thing now doing cold showers, ice cold showers for
Yeah.
minutes. Do you have any other little things that you might do throughout the day? You said listening to podcasts. I agree with you. I love to learn. I love to hear new things. I love Freakonomics. That's a great show as well. Are there any things that you may attribute towards your success? Little habits.
I learned so much through my TikTok work. I got to say, so much because of it'll prompt me to research something and look it up. And I'm really good at researching. So I'll be able to find if, something is valid or not. And you brought up about showers and cold showers. So there was a video I got tagged in and I researched it. And I found a fascinating study that was done up either in Norway or the Netherlands, somewhere near there, or Scandinavia, one of those countries, where they took 3 groups of people and they finished their shower. After their normal shower, they finished it with 30 seconds of cold water. The second group was 60 seconds of cold water. The third group was 90 seconds of cold water. And they found that all 3 groups had about a 30% reduction in getting sick versus a control group, which was no cold at the end. And so that was I learned something pretty powerful, that for something so simple that virtually everybody can do, you can reduce your chance of getting sick by 30%. So I've started now at the end of my showers, make it cold for 30 seconds for that reason. Exactly. And there's a lot of science also why it does that. It boosts the immune system and it stimulates a number of other factors. So that's really a great scientifically backed thing to do.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
I did not know that. And I know you were on the Dr. Drew show. Dr. Drew is a big advocate of cold showers as well. So that's very interesting though.
Yeah. So there's really good science that backs it up.
I feel a little attacked because I just showered before we started and I told you to shower.
Took a warm one.
Yeah.
Well, you can redeem yourself by hopping in for the 30 seconds there.
I should. Give me a second. I'll be back. All right, guys. It's your boy, Matt Havis, back at it. This was our world-class interview with the celebrity eye surgeon, Dr. Boxer Wachler. He is unbelievable. We really enjoyed talking to him. If you guys have any topics you guys would like him to discuss with us on another episode, feel free to give us a shout out. Give us a DM on Instagram at dental.student.vibes. Let us know what you think and what else we could discuss with him or with somebody else if you would like us to discuss something, a certain topic that you guys want to hear about. We would love to. So make sure you check out his book, Perceptual Intelligence. You can find it on any platform. Check it out on Amazon. Super, super cool book. Love the topics after we discussed it with him. I can't wait to read it myself. Make sure you guys check it out and let us know what you think. So, as always, stay safe and vibe on.